Chapter 3. The Secrets of Ironhook. Sindros Valorian arrived at the camp as the sun dipped low, the last light catching the bronze sheen of his draconic features and making him look briefly like a statue of some forgotten war god with excellent posture. He was no stranger to those gathered there. His greeting was calm, familiar, the manner of a man who had led soldiers before and learned that command was mostly responsibility, paperwork, and watching younger men die creatively. He shared food, spoke little, and listened much. By nightfall, he was simply part of the fire again. At dawn, the Hood, Juan, and Sindros left the others behind and made for Ironhook. The town sat quiet between farmland and forest, its buildings sturdy but tired, as though they had learned not to ask questions of what lay beneath them. Doors were thick, windows narrow, smiles brief and professionally unhelpful. They walked its streets, noting shops and faces. At the general store they asked about trouble, and the shopkeeper spoke of livestock vanishing near the woods. No signs of bandits, no blood, just absence. The Hood lingered by a rack of scythes, studying their weight and curve with the attention other men reserved for fine wine or dangerous women. The party took directions and headed out toward the farms. The fields gave way to trees, and there the world felt older. The air cooled, birdsong stopped, even the wind seemed reluctant to continue. Juan watched the tree line, searching for movement. The Hood listened for intention rather than sound. When the creature emerged, it was a great wolf, scarred and powerful, fur marked by old battles and older winters. It moved with the assurance of something that had never once paid tax, more guardian than beast. Sindros approached slowly, speaking softly as one would to a frightened dog or an unstable duke. He offered food, waiting without expectation. The wolf did not attack. It watched. The Hood drew a line in the dirt with his scythe, a boundary, not a threat. Something passed between them, territory, respect. The ancient agreement that violence need not occur today. When the Hood later reached out, the creature allowed his touch. The farmers were told the truth. Do not enter the forest, and you will not be harmed. Payment followed, coin, gratitude, and the profound relief of people learning their problem belonged to someone else. Back in Ironhook, the Hood sought the smith and commissioned a scythe fit not for harvest but judgment. He paid in gold and whispered a number that left the smith pale, sweating, and suddenly aware of several unpaid sins. Later, at the tailor's, he requested a cloak trimmed in bone and symbol. When the price was named, he offered service instead. The tailor agreed, though in the manner of a person signing something they had not fully read. Juan and Sindros went instead to the tavern. The ale flowed freely, stronger than expected, dark, heavy, bitter at the back of the tongue, with notes of barley, oak, and poor decision-making. Juan noticed the cellar door, scuffed wood, fresh scratches, marks that did not belong to barrels. Locals spoke around it, never of it. Their eyes slid away whenever the latch moved, as though even looking at it incurred a fee. As the night deepened, their heads grew heavy. Thought slowed. The drink clung strangely, refusing to fade. When closing time came, the Hood joined them, in time to see two men emerge from the cellar with a young local in tow. Questions were asked. Answers were thin. Another round arrived without being ordered. The world tilted. The room stretched sideways in a way architecture rarely should. The last thing Juan remembered was the taste, sharp, metallic, medicinal, before darkness claimed him with professional efficiency. They awoke chained, cold stone, iron bars, the distant echo of picks and screams beneath Ironhook. The alcohol had been laced, not enough to kill, only enough to render resistance meaningless, a considerate dosage if one admired villainy as a craft. They had been dragged below while the town slept above them and pretended not to hear. In the mines, they learned quickly. Prisoners were not meant to leave. Some were worked until they broke. Others were taken deeper, to places the guards spoke of only in muttered jokes and sudden silences. Over long hours they watched patrols, memorized lantern patterns, and learned where the armory lay. When food was brought, the Hood and Juan acted. Chains snapped free. A guard was seized. Another silenced. Juan's mimicry carried a perfect lie down the corridor, a shouted false alarm convincing enough to halt reinforcements and redirect fools toward somebody else's problem. Blood followed, not in fury, but necessity. They exited the cells, dressed as guards, and headed to the armory. They stripped it bare. Weapons, tools, keys, powder, and ledgers that spoke of transfers and disappearances, never releases. Disguised in stolen uniforms, they walked out of their own imprisonment like men late for a shift. No one questioned them. Competence is the finest disguise. They followed the draft upward, past guard posts and a lift chamber, emerging beneath Ironhook in the cold night air. Freedom tasted of frost and coal dust before returning to camp. The hood stopped once more at the tailor's door. She had waited. The cloak she gave him was heavy, black, bone-trimmed, judgment-made cloth. It settled on his shoulders as though it had always known him. By dawn, Juan and the hood returned to camp. The fire was cold. The others still slept. And beneath Ironhook, the mines continued their work, unaware that the executioner now knew where the chains were forged.